Yo, what's up guys? Let's look at this buffed unit, Carmela. At least, I guess that's how you pronounce it. So currently on the skill 3, she has a bit of an improvement where she attacks all enemies to decrease their defense. This effect cannot be resisted if the target's attack power is lower than yours. And this attack will not be landing as a glancing hit. So that was the big issue before. If you were fighting any kind of water unit, you would still glance. And with that glance, you would actually land or not land. But the thing is, she's actually a fire element, which makes it against Carmela really good as well. Because if you put her 15 crit rate, she guaranteed cannot crit. So she will guarantee land her armor break, guarantee not crit. So she might be the best defense breaker in game. How would you use her though? Because in this case, you need to have higher defense and higher attack than the enemy. Which there are a few units out there that actually does give defense buff and attack buff at the same time. Such as, for example, the Megan. I think she will be best in slot because of the 22 if you max this out attack bar gain. You can, of course, use the Miriam, which is best in slot if you don't need any attack bar provided. And I think that those are kind of the only options. Sure, you could go Draco, but he's RNG if he actually gets the attack buff or not. Or you just have to go enough defense that you have more defense than the enemy. But that is kind of hard for her base stats itself. So I would say getting the attack is relatively easy. Getting the defense might be a little bit more tricky. And the defense part is what you mainly need against the water unit. So then again, are those water units going to be high on defense? Is a Carmela high on defense? It might actually be. So then the big question, what is the best set on her? Well, definitely not the runes that I'm showcasing right now. But you definitely would like to go probably for a full-on damage, well, let's say attack-based guard set. Or you want to go for a full-on, well, actually, you already, like, I see some of the crit rates over here, and it's sort of like, yeah, you probably do not want to have those crit rates. Or you want to go for a full-on, well, actually, I have some proper guard runes. They are a little bit too high on the, what's it called? On the crit rate side, but I do have my fair share of guard runes. So I could see her being a triple guard angle or a fatal guard angle. Those two is definitely what I would see. In most cases, if not all cases, you would actually use her combined with a attack buffer. And in the case of using an attack buffer, it's of course the highest value that you can get is this. Well, probably on a defense style as well. So we have a 14 potentially and then an 18, so 32 in total. So I think with this and an attack buff, in most cases, we will have enough value to actually do it. With attack buff and defense buff, we will definitely have. So as mentioned, either like a triple guard or a fatal guard is probably what you're going to be aiming at. And then it kind of depends like what kind of stats you have, to the extent of like, okay, if you want to use her a lot, especially into Carmela's, you have to go for the 15 crit rate. So you have to make sure that these things are in tune. Then, of course, the question in offense, where can you use her against? Or siege offense, like she's going to be arena offense or siege offense. Well, anything that is going to outspeed you is just simply a no-go. Something like this. And this is actually right away what I would like to test her in, because it says it cannot be resisted. But how about Nyx passive? It says it cannot glance. But how about the Light Pony passive? Those are the two interesting values that I do want to check. So right away, we found a great team over here to test that on. So we're going to be using her. I think I will still add in the Grogan. McGrogan is not optimized runed, but I think we're just going to go for a simple Grogan Tiana style, because I think that I should definitely be able to outspeed this without any shenanigans. So if we go this, we go that, you are semi-fast enough. I just have to slow you down a little bit or speed you up. Let's just slow you down because that's easy. Okay, it's slowed down enough. Of course, you can use this with any offense unit that you might like to use. So it could be a Zyros, could be legit anything that you want to do the damage on. But in this case, I'm just going to go for the Grogan. Necessarily not as a Grogan showcase, more showcase on her. So let's see if we do this. If we do that, then the big question is, can the Nyx passive activate? So I do think I have enough defense to make it work for all of them. Actually, I should go for the Megan over here rather than this unit. So let's just see. Does Nyx passive doesn't seem to activate, and then it's just a simple cleanup. I should actually set up 2 units myself. So in this case, we didn't do enough damage because the Grogan is not really at the greatest set that he's normally at. But I should actually be hitting myself so then I can test this more often. She does have an S2 that's okay-ish for the cleanup, but it's not really that crazy. So let's actually set up that defense myself. And I'm going to be using both a Nyx and a Light Pony, because if she can counter both of those as well, she actually has some value against certain niche defenses that might be harder to take out. So in this case, we're just going to go for the Nyx and this. Should we be fast enough to outspeed that if you're on a 301? Yeah, that should totally be fine. Let's actually replace you for a Megan, because lower attack lead, but in the end, the idea is the same, and we do get a guaranteed speed buff and attack buff. There's too bad not really any unit that would fully value from a speed buff plus an attack buff except a Copper. That's the only one that I can bring to mind where I would say is like, oh, that actually uses both, but... yeah, Copper is not really one of those units what you would say is like, yeah, I'm gonna be AoE cleaving with that. There's not too many units that go for both attack and defense to my understanding / knowledge of the game thus far. So let's see if those do actually happen. I should put 2 units to the side of it because that gives me more chance of actually seeing anything going wrong. But let's just give it a few tests. Let's actually set it on the prepare. Let's just do 2 more other whatever units right next to it. Let's just go for the test, and yeah, I want to see, can I actually glance those? Can I actually miss any of those because of the Nyx passive? Or is this something that if you find a slow team with a Nyx, so far seems to be landing everything so far. So that's actually a really interesting unit right there, because it would hard counter Nyx, it would hard counter the Light Pony. The only big issue is she's just defense breaking. She's not doing anything else than the defense break, whereas Galleon has a defense break plus an attack buff. Nephthys has defense break plus a speed lead. Gemini has defense break plus a strip. What else do we use? We use... Truffle has double defense break. But then again, Truffle's actually kind of bad right now, because if this guaranteed always lands, you don't need a Truffle anymore. So where you were using your Truffle before, you're not going to be using your Truffle anymore right now. Where you were using your Jasmine before, you don't really have to use Jasmine anymore unless you want to have the armor break plus a increased cooltime. So those are kind of the values out there that's, okay, do you need just the defense break or do you need the defense break plus something? Because a relatively common team that you used to use was, I would say, Tiana, Robo plus Truffle or something like that. Issue with that one, however, you don't really provide a attack buff, you don't really provide a defense buff. So getting to the thresholds where your attack is more and your defense is more difficult. But so far it seems 100% where we just seem to be landing those. Like otherwise, one of the two would have absolutely connected already thus far. So that makes it fairly nice where you can always land all of your skills. And since I have the Nephthys, I might be like, okay, Nephthys is already 100% defense break, except on Carmela's, except on Nyx's, and except on things that can glance you, such as the Pony. But outside of that, it's already the best one. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's just a little bit hard to get the thresholds, because let's say that I see a slower team, and what can I actually use? Like, for example, this one on the slower team, I can use a team like this. Like, this is definitely a usable team with anything in the 4th pick for damage. 100% usable. But I feel like that's maybe the only solution out there, because the moment we go into Siege, the moment we go for a strip plus this, then it's already like, can you actually use that? Let's say you put a Jogun next to this for the attack buff, then your Jogun could miss and you could therefore miss the defense break. So getting your highest value of consistency is actually pairing the 3 of them together to always have the everything going on. But then again, where can you actually fully use that? Well, to be honest, where do you see most of the Light Pony teams / the Nyx teams? That is pretty often next to a Leo defense. So I think she's gonna be one of your core Leo counters. Like, for example, one of the teams that I do tend to use is against Leo is the one over here. Wait, where is the one with the Tanjiro? This one. In this case, however, you're not gonna have a attack buff or defense buff. So I'm not really sure where you're gonna get the attack buff / defense buff from. If you're fighting enemy Leos, then I could definitely see a team where you put the Carmela over here. Well, it's pretty much the same team as we just had. Yeah, I could actually see that working. Let's say you make a Will Megan on very high HP and a lot of shield sets that a Leo can never break the shield, even with like Lucifers and that kind of stuff. So I could see this as a Lucifer counter. I could see this as like Leo counters in general. So let's actually see if I have any kind of random Leo defense. Okay, this one is a little bit more tricky, but that is an Amduet issue right there. Also Amduet issue right there. Why, that's actually the same guy. Can we still do this? Because you would move into that. Only thing we would need is we would need you to be on insane. Well, then I would have to make everything slower and kind of stuff. Because right now this thing is probably on a lot of damage on. Well, we can give it a quick try. Because that thing is probably on a lot of damage where the damage is going to be good enough to make damage on any water units out there. And because of that, you just still get like the 5k attack bar or 5k damage. Because of 5k damage, you will gain the attack bar and then shit's going down the drain. That's kind of how it works most of the time. But let's see if we were to put some will runes to the test. Will rune over there, will rune over there. Let's go for some shieldy. Ah, that's actually one of my newest runes. Still have to grind. I have to do a lot of R5. That is definitely a thing right there. If we just add a lot of defense, we don't care about a lot of HP. We care a lot about we care a lot about the defense. That's all we do. So this one, this one, this one. Okay, we are too slow right now for you, or we're too fast for you. That's also the thing. If you make her a main Leo counter, you can actually add a lot more stats to her than I'm doing right now, which makes it easier for her to be in the threshold where you would say it's like, yo, I can actually just simply get my skills and my stats off without having to focus too much on speed, which is definitely a thing as well. But because, yeah, then you just start throwing in these kind of things and these kind of things, and sure, kind of low on the attack right now, but you get the idea that maybe you can get away with it a little bit more in that case. So let's see, that one has that hit a 1k. 1k is not about 5, and therefore we still get all of our skills in. Issue right now is Amduet's gonna move after this, ain't he? Yep, he is, and not enough pushback didn't stun me, GG. So sure, the Amduet did kind of help for this one out there, but the idea is there. I'm not 100% sure if I will be using it myself, as mentioned, because I do have other units that can kind of make things work already. Like, for example, you could say a team like this. Oh, it has the Nyx. I can counter the Nyx. But how am I going to get enough, not enough of everything? Because in the end, to outspeed this, Nyx could be on Swift. If the Nyx is on Swift, this is not going to outspeed it. Which might be one of those things like, yeah, that's one of those tricky things. Like, if the Nyx is Despair, it is fine. Like, if he has a dumb bolt, it's fine. Then we can easily cleave that. But if the Nyx is on the Smart Bolt and it's Swift, then I could have not outsped this. And also in this case, you have to be fully in tune to actually make things work, which is very important as well. But yeah, there's a few things that I would be like, yeah, you can kind of clear it. It kind of works. But is it that useful? Is it that crazy good? I still have to find my way around like a good team where I would say it's really fitting. But I can definitely see the potential for her. She is the best defense breaker in game, like straight up. If you only need a defense break and you can make it for the stats, she is absolutely by far the best. Only big issue I see is like her base defense, if you want to work with the no glance, is really hard. Well, the thing is also, like, if you were working with just the, if you don't care about the glancing part, because that's the newly added part, but if you just care about the attack part, it is relatively easy to just say something along the lines, I think I have plenty of Fatal Runes. Because that's also the thing. You don't have to focus anything on accuracy, because if you guaranteed land, you don't need accuracy. Simple as that. That's just a fact. So if we go a lot of stats over here, over here, over here, and then we go for a little bit of a quad roll in there, and we have another quad roll in there, and we have another quad roll in there. And we go for something along the lines of this. Like, how often is it that if I were to use this next to, let's say, a Tiana Truffle, or I use this instead of my Tanjiro for Poseidon, then again, I kind of like the pushback potential that the Irresistible gives from the Tanjiro towards the Poseidon or anything like that. But if I just need a Death Breaker, like, sure, I do know that you don't need triple or like 6 Fatal Runes on that to go anywhere. But you can still add like 5 to this or whatever you want. But yeah, getting the amount of thresholds for attack is doable. But then again, I think the only team that I can think of is actually this plus whatever nuker you can think of. Let me know in the comments if you guys thought of any other teams out there that would make a lot of sense. Of course, you can still go for just a Adriano or any kind of other unit over here. Because what if you say, let's go for a little bit of a faster route. Because what you could do with a faster route, let's say we go for Zyros over here. We could go for a Hong. Oh, where are you at? Hong. Yep. Hongyong over here, this one, yep. This is still an option that you could go for a cleave team as well, because if you go for this as a cleave team, let's just actually put you something in there because we stole a rune. And are you actually something? No, you're absolutely nothing. Well, I would say Zyros is technically better because it does have a self-providing lead over there. But in this case, we can actually pair anything of the speed of you. So we could make you crazy fast. And maybe not sure if you've ever seen this team, so I'll quickly just showcase that. This one, this one, this one, yep. Did we find the other team that... Where was that team that we just got clapped? Well, we would get clapped by that Vermos, like taking a turn again if we were to hit that. Just for the idea of it. Just for the idea of it. It's not really that recommended to go for the idea of it on that one. Let's find something that's slow, which is definitely an issue in this game as well, because everyone just likes to love to rock their speed leads. There's not too many HP leads out there. You want to know why? HP leads in general suck. Well, this one is actually something you could do. Once again, similar style as what we did before with the you on this. Yeah, that actually could work. Well, then again, we would have to make you slower again, but something like this, I think it's mainly a counter on these kind of teams or these kind of teams, because if you make our 15 crit rate and then you have a good nuker in here, let's say Pungbeak or anything like that, that could also do proper damage on Carmelas, yeah, I could see some potential out there, but finding right teams to hit, not that easy. Oh, we can find a really bad team to hit. Let's just do it because I wanted to showcase the Hongyong. So this one, yep. Search the name, always makes it a little bit easier. Zyros in there, of course, is a little bit better. But the reason that Hongyong is pretty interesting is because you can get an attack buff after or move in front of your Tiana, and because you place the song, you still get the attack buff. So it's a little bit easier to get the attack buff on your unit. Plus, if you weren't killing everything, or if you were to get a second turn on a certain unit, you get the attack buff again. Your Tiana also will get the attack buff again. So in a team like this, where you don't care as much about not having enough defense, I could see that as a value for her as well. But then again, you're still missing the speed lead, so therefore, it's not that easy to find things to hit. But in the end, I guess it can work. Looks like a pretty interesting unit. Let me know in the comments where you're planning to use her. If you're planning to use her, or maybe you just prefer any of the other defense breakers. And let me know, which defense breaker do you like most? For me, answer is very simple. It's Nafty's. Like, she's the most OP defense breaker in the game, and she's not going to get replaced anytime soon. However, thanks for watching this one. See you as always in the next one. In the Discord, and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.